Welcome. I'm Sue Landay from Trainer's Warehouse. This is Show and Share, and we're talking about time management today. And we were on the call just a little bit earlier, and I was just saying I'd like to kind of brace our conversation with a little bit of information about procrastination and the brain science behind that and time management. Then I'm going to show you a few tools and then kind of open it up and we can chat with each other about favorite exercises, ask questions, and kind of pool our knowledge. So that's the plan. I hope that sounds okay to everybody. And if not, as always, put some notes in the chat. I'll be looking at that as well. The brain science behind procrastination. I think this is kind of interesting, and there is a blog post about this if you want to follow along a little bit. And Sarah, my colleague Sarah, can put that link in the chat. But what's interesting about procrastination is that it's not just, putting things off because you just want, you don't have the discipline to get things done. From what I've learned, it's a primal kind of safety reaction, because the idea of doing that big task that you're faced with is actually a lot scarier and more frightening than putting it off. And so the idea is, to help people find strategies that will help them either break things down into pieces, or make that task less threatening. And so I wanted to kind of think about that time management has a lot of different components, and understanding that background to me was kind of empowering. I have some people in my family who have wrestled with ADHD, and having seen the strategies and the things that they need to do is just, I sympathize that some of the things that we recommend aren't that easy. So, another one of those is we talked about, and for a long time sold products around the concept of eating the frog. And I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but the idea, I think it was, and I'm going to actually share my screen here and pull this up. Oh gosh, now that I've done this, I'm trying to remember if it's why we procrastinate and where this link is. And now I'm sorry, I'm not going to find it. But basically, the idea is, if you eat a frog first thing in the morning, you've done the worst thing that you have to eat all day, or that you have to do all day. And then the rest of your day should be much better after that. And so we kind of said, just do it, just do it. But when you understand the background behind procrastination, I kind of appreciate more deeply that it's not necessarily that easy. And yes, Sarah has also just put in the chat a link to a matrix about that looks at. Thank you. I'm just going to copy this so we can look at it together. And I have to remind you guys, none of these are scripted. I'm not training on this stuff day to day, but I want to be here to be able to have the conversations together. So forgive me if this isn't like a polished presentation. That's sort of not the idea of our show and shares. But anyway, so Mark Twain is the one who said, eat the frog first thing in the morning. And this matrix is based on Stephen Covey's time management. And the idea is about breaking up your urgent activities and your not urgent activities, and those that are more or less important, and understanding and kind of thinking about how to focus your time based on this matrix, which my guess is not news to all of you who are doing time management training. This tool that I'm showing you right now, we actually used to sell as a notepad. And as sometimes happens with Trainers Warehouse, we find that there are some products that don't necessarily sell that well, and so we discontinue them. But we do make this tool available as a download. And so if you wanted to kind of create some notes about it or use the framework or whatnot, we do make that available to you. So just gonna stop that share. And so anyway, so aside from understanding procrastination, then the next question is, so what do we do and how are we teaching time management? What are some of the tools that can help with this? So one of them is the clock that I started when we at the top of the hour. And I set this to 32 minutes because I started it just at like 2 minutes before noon. And this is a really nice visual reminder of time elapsing, because I also know that, you know, folks with ADHD, they don't have a good like internal time metric. And so sometimes, or if you're in groups and you get like so wound up in a conversation, you know, having something like this where there's a visual reminder for everyone about kind of where you are and how to allocate your time, it can be just a wonderful tool. And this comes in an 8-inch version. There's also a 12-inch version. It does have feet on it, so it stands on a desk easily, as well as you can hang it up on a wall. Okay. And that's keeping me on time right now also. Okay, so that's one tool. And yes, that you found I'm looking at the chat also. So the earlier matrix you can download. So the next item I want to show you is, and this is like, we just got a first batch of these in today. And this is a time management thumball. So you guys have seen us sell a lot of it and talk a lot about thumbballs. The idea is you catch the ball and respond to the prompt under your thumb. So because time management is such a popular topic, we created one specifically for this topic. So on it, I'll just read you some of the prompts. A mantra you could tell yourself when you find yourself procrastinating. How do you get back on track after procrastinating? An activity that eats up a lot of time that you wish you could stop. How do you go about prioritizing your to-do list? How do you deal with an influx of emails? So basically, it's a tool to kind of make it fun to explore these different topics of how people find themselves wasting time and how to get back on track. And again, these are just conversation starters. They're not the whole conversation. They're not a whole curriculum, but they're a way to add in an activity to kind of make that fun. Okay, next one is the Mayo Jar. I'm going to reach behind me. And this one may be one that we need to spend some time talking about because we've gotten some feedback on this. And this comes with a Mayo Jar filled with golf balls, as well as some rocks and sand. And this can be facilitated in a number of different ways. So in general, you might have a set to give to different tables and say, how much of this stuff can you fit in and into the jar? And maybe somebody, different teams may go about that in different ways, and you can see who is able to fit all of it in. At the end of it, it comes with a parable that we include on a sheet of paper that is also downloadable. And the parable is, I'll just read it to you briefly. Professor stands before his philosophy class, and when the class begins, he picks up the jar and he says, okay, is this full? And everybody says, yeah, it is. And so then he picks up his pebbles and he puts them in and he shakes it around, and all of the pebbles fall to the bottom. He says, now is it full? Yes, it is. the students say. And so he adds sand and he puts that in, and that all fits in. And they say, is it still full? Now is the jar full? Everybody says yes, yes, yes. And so the professor then ends, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things, your family, your children, your health, your friends, your favorite passions, and everything else was lost. If everything else was lost, then your life would, well, I'm not reading this very well. If I just read it, I'd be much better, but I'm trying to rush through it. My bad. If everything else were lost and they only had what remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles and the other things, like your job, your house, your car, other things that matter. The sand is everything else, the small stuff. And if you put the sand into the jar first, there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time, your energy on the small stuff, you'll never have enough room for the things that are more important to you. So pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness, yada, yada, yada. So, and oh, wait, there's an end to this. Hold on. One of the students raised her hand and inquired, what does the beer represent? And I had meant to do this whole thing and bring in some beer bottles today filled with colored water. And the professor says, I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room for a couple of beers or drinks. So no, I like that parable. We have had some concerns about the fact that, is this a one-time use or can you separate this stuff afterwards? And you can use it multiple times. Yes, it does take some time. The balls are easily separated out, and the sand and the rocks can be sifted through as well. And we do then suggest, if you don't want things to be sticky or whatever, you could fill beer bottles with water or colored water or whatever. So this has just been a popular and really visual tool. And it's a little bit of a production, but I also kind of like the message of it. So thanks for bearing with that big explanation. We talked about the to-do matrix. There are a couple of other resources I'm going to share with you, and then we can chat. So this is a to-it token. And it might be backward as I'm showing it to you right now. I don't know if things are shifted around. The idea of a to it is that you don't want to wait till you get around to it. You just want to do it. Again, I don't know how useful that is to folks with ADHD, unless you break down what are you doing and what is it, and the it is a first step as opposed to, eating the whole frog. Maybe it's just the leg. And so we have the blue version of the to-it tokens. And then we also have like a wooden nickel. And it's just kind of a reminder to, to encourage people to take those first steps. My last little bit of show and tell, and I think that the computer might screen out sounds that it thinks are external. I don't know. Can you guys hear this? Maybe not. Sometimes this is what gets. But anyway, this is, just dropped it. This is a one-tone chime, a three-tone chime, inexpensive, and can kind of get people's attention if you are trying to manage your own time in a session. Okay, and I'm seeing behind me, that big clock behind me, that I have 15 minutes. So I love that visual reminder. In fact, note to self to use this in future sessions. I want to also draw your attention to another resource. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I want to go, we talked about the brain science behind procrastination. I think Sarah shared this link, blog.trainerswarehouse.com. We also have collected lots and lots of time management activities. And this is on the blog. I curate these from all over the web. I think I started doing this collection, many years ago and continue to add to it. And I want to draw your attention to it because it's not always just about like the sale or the product or the tool. There are tons of ideas in here that I think can be really useful. So we talked about this and then the Mayo Jar, this 86 400, 86,000. Let's say you have that amount to spend. I'm going to make this bigger. Hopefully you can see it. How did they, what's that?
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's try this again. Okay, we good now? Okay, thank you. When they lose it, that we then discuss why and how they spent the money. Then I tell them that 86,400 is the number of seconds we have in each day. And, if you think about how you're, spending those units of time, it in different ways that can be a useful activity. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom for a second because I think there are a lot of comments again about how to facilitate this. Bumping back up to the top, we talked about the to-do and not to-do matrix, right? So like in that not urgent and less important, is that busy work that you shouldn't do? Are urgent but less important tasks, ones that you might want to delegate. And
Happy birthday.
someone needs to mute.
Wow.
Let me see.
One day you'll come visit us.
Sorry, you guys.
Ciao.
Oh no, I can't find it. Sorry, back on track. In this blog post, so blog.warehouse.com, time management activity, there's also down there.
Hope you guys are doing well.
So ribbon of life.
Visit us.
Ay. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I am able to take a see who it is. I can't see who it is. Okay. Back to where we were. Thank you for bearing with me. So the ribbon of life, take a colored length of rope or ribbon and kind of cut out that 1 meter and say, these inches represent your lifespan. And how much time are you sleeping? How much time do you spend commuting? How much time are on your weekends? And, you keep cutting down this ribbon until you have, okay, this is your productive time. How do you want to use it? And it just is another visual way to think about time. And so here there's, polygon, big picture puzzle. How long is a minute? Having people close their eyes and kind of stand up when they think a minute has elapsed. So lots of different options in here that you can just kind of do on your own. So that's my spiel. Showing you some products. I wanted to, introduce some of those exercises to you, but I would now like to kind of open this up to you guys and one another so that you can ask either me or one another some questions about which activities and tools and resources you have found most useful, because you guys are experts. And so let's take a minute and I welcome, questions, comments, so forth.
Hey, Sue, this is Wendy, and one of the things that we've had for a very long time is the clock that you have in the background, and then we also have the chimes. And one of the things I didn't even think about is we have some folks in our group that are very hard of hearing, and wear hearing aids, and the chimes sometimes resonate with them and don't. I'm a person with low vision, so even I can see the red on the clock. For me to hear the chimes, and what I really appreciate about the chimes is that they are tuned. There's nothing worse than a sharp or flat something to get your attention. But both of those things are lovely, and it helps with people with differing needs as far as senses go. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And I'm kind of curious, are you, for the folks who are on, and I didn't create a survey for this or anything, I suppose I could, but maybe just in the chat. I'm curious if you're thinking about time management as a topic that you're teaching, or if you're thinking about it more as how you're managing time in the classroom. And if there are other specific tools as you're thinking about this topic that would be helpful for us to share with one another.
Thank you, Susan. I like the interactive approach you're doing. That's amazing. And thank you, Sarah, for all the links you're putting in the chat. Very helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And back to your question, I'm using it as a facilitator. So I run time management classes, and I have the ball. I have lots of the warehouse stuff, and but the 86,400 I find very deep and meaningful. So when people realize that this is the amount of seconds they have, and then the amount of time we lose between mobile phones here and there, I think it's a deep one that usually helps people become self-aware and how they are managing their time, and hence the change starts to happen in their minds and consequently on their behaviors. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because time is it's such an abstract concept at times, that to be able to, it's just one piece of the puzzle, right? But like making that, visual, or translating it from a visceral feeling to something that you can see, can be pretty powerful. But yeah, there's so many different aspects of this, from awareness to then strategies, right? And that's what some of the prompts, whether it's, those prompts that we were looking at beforehand on Trainers Exchange or on that Thumball, like how do we start having conversations both about building awareness of our own tendencies, also developing strategies. Other questions?
Sue, this is Rob.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to chime in on the Mayo Jar. I'd seen a video of that done before, and I love the visual. And in the video I saw, the professor dumped water in at the end. I'm telling you, the thing with the beer, that is like 10 times better. That is so like you've got to make time for a beer, or a drink with your friends or whatever. That takes it to another level for me. So I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, I kind of butchered the presentation. I'm sure the video is much better, except for the beer. But we also do have the notes to go along with that. So that could make it easier also. But yeah, I like the beer touch as well, which is why I was kicking myself for not remembering that. But what else? Other questions? Do you all who are doing, I see that, several of you answered that you are developing training or delivering training in time management. Do you have other, exercises or suggestions for your colleagues of things that you have that you've found to be effective? You're
I
all going to
found
be,
with some of our older employees, they don't want to admit that there is a little bit of a gap in using technology. So even saying something like, make sure you have that on your Excel spreadsheet, and it, you can see the, dull look in the eyes and crickets in the air are chirping, and even something like that. So we actually had a very beginner kind of session just to go over how to build your own Excel spreadsheet. And even that got a little bit daunting. You could see the fear in their eyes, definitely.
and so relate that to me to time management. Are you using that for managing time? Or,
Yes,
okay.
right. There are so many tasks that how else can you capture all of the things that you need to have done, even for, one case. And so, yeah, we were trying to, and that's something that I used early in my career just to keep track of where am I, what's due, how long do I have to do it, and yeah, so yeah, and that's why I like your to-do,
The to-do list
little,
matrix.
yeah, the to-do list you have there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm a list person. I'm totally a list person. And one of my favorite things is crossing stuff off the list. So, so sometimes putting things on your list that you can cross off is helpful psychologically, right?
Oh, it's so satisfying. Yeah.
So even, when we look at that and I think about the quadrant in that bottom right quadrant, maybe it's not important and not urgent, but there are some things where even if you're able to do them and then cross them off, it's like it gives you that little extra edge to be able to attack those urgent and important tasks that need your morning focus and so forth. Yeah. Other suggestions or questions? I know we just have a couple more minutes, but let's use them.
I kind of have a suggestion. When you were talking about procrastination, the team of people that I'm on, there's like 5 of us, and all of our jobs are very individualized. So if someone says they're having a hard time with the project, then what we'll do is we'll collaborate on it because they procrastinated and wait to the last minute. We'll say, okay, let's do a Teams meeting. We're all going to brainstorm how to get you started, write the introductory paragraph, and that kind of helps them get motivated because we're all trying to help. So that's one way that a strategy that we use to deal with procrastination.
I love that. I love that. And so taking that one step further is part of, a debrief or a follow-up question is, who can be the person who, you rely on to help make things happen, or who's your buddy, and kind of having a buddy system. My husband is a writer, and because writing can be so difficult, there are services that he uses where basically you go online, you schedule an hour or so where you have to show up and you're in a Zoom and you're not talking, you're each just working, but that there are other people around kind of holding you to it. And so you're less likely during that time to hop on your phone or to play a game or to avoid. And so, so that's one aspect of it, is like this buddy idea. But I love how you described, Benita, of, actually, we're all in this together. Yeah. How can we help each other get started and make those things happen? Good tip. Thank you. Other tips? Other questions? Well, we're at 12:30 right now. So as always, I will stay on for a while, but I want to thank everybody for coming. I do hope that this was helpful and that you have a few more resources that you can call on and not just the products that we sell, but do spend some time on that blog post, because there are some other kind of just fun activities that I didn't talk through because I know that they're there for you. But it is a great resource, and I'm always adding to it. So let me know if I have anything else to add. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.